Welcome back to the Pocket Studio Sessions. I'm Dan, and in this episode of Studio Maker, we're going to go over how I made these acoustic panels for my studio. My buddy Mark, who I rent the space from, was nice enough to give me 4 of these 6-pound rigid fiberglass insulation panels that he had just laying up in his attic. These are the same density as the Owens Corning 705 panels that I used in my previous studio. They had the spin foil backing that I was able to easily peel off, just starting at one corner and working my way slowly across the width of the panel and down to the other end. Although this probably wouldn't affect too many lower frequencies, it might bounce some of those higher mids and high frequencies. After I got rid of that, I brought it back to the studio where I pulled my desk into the middle of the room and covered it with some thin 0.7mm plastic. I laid out some garden stakes to keep the panels off the desk and to separate between them to keep any of the adhesive that I'm going to use to harden the edges from sticking together. I found on several forums that Roman's Pro 543 is a great substitute for the edge hardener that sells for like $50 on other websites. Of course, you could always use fiberglass resin if you're going for those nice beveled edges on like the prime acoustic panels, but really you just need something to firm up the edges to prevent the fabric from crushing them. The budget was pretty tight on this project, so I couldn't just order a bunch of Guilfords of Maine fabric to line these panels. So instead I went to Joann Fabrics and I purchased the most affordable acoustically transparent fabric I could find. Since nobody will ever see the back, I got this fine mesh fabric that was a lot cheaper than the front-facing fabric. And it was really just there to keep any of the fiberglass from dusting up into the air. For the front, I used a cotton fabric in a color and style like that was also acoustically transparent. Then I got to work adhering the fabric to the panels using 3M Super 77 spray and a utility knife to trim the excess fabric. Stacked them up, let them dry, and then I did the same for the front, making sure to really take my time to pull all of the edges straight and leave as few wrinkles as possible. Then it was time to get ready to build some frames, for which I used this 2x2 clear grain kiln dried Douglas fir. At the time of building this, the pandemic really affected building material prices, so it's about the nicest I could afford. Really what you want to avoid is using green lumber, like they use for framing out houses. That's going to drip a bunch of sap all over your panels once you go to hang them. I used a pocket hole jig to join all the frame members for the freestanding panels that I would use in the corners, and just cut 2 panel height sticks for the panels that I would adhere directly to the wall. I built these freestanding frames 6 feet high, so when the panel was placed straight up to the top, it would stand 2 feet off the floor and have 2 feet between the ceiling. Now, there's probably a lot better ways to do this had I really planned this out a little bit better, but, well, we were kind of short on time, so I had to improvise a little bit. I used 2x2 because leaving a gap up to the thickness of the panel behind it can really reduce bass frequencies. When it came to these feet, I had no idea how long I needed them, so I think I cut these to about 20 inches long, leaving about 3 inches off the back, and about, after the face of the panel, 15 inches in front of them, which actually ended up being a little bit too long, but better to err on the side of caution than have a panel smash down on your computer and speakers. Now that everything's said and done though, I probably could have got away with about 2/3 this length for those feet. Now, the one thing I was absolutely sure I didn't want to use on this project was impalers that are frequently sold to hang this type of panel. Instead, I drilled through these frames into the back of the panels, first using a short drill bit and then backing it up with a 2.5-inch screw to make sure that I didn't rip a bunch of fiberglass out with the drill bit. Then I took these 50-pound anchors and a bit of super glue to hold them in place, driving them into the pre-drilled holes and just giving them a little bit of time to set up before I came back and landed the screws. I was really shocked at how well this held, and it's probably the easiest time I've ever had setting a bass trap into a corner. For the first reflection points on the sides of my speakers, I used those 2 panel height sticks that I cut for each panel and attached them the same way. First pre-drilling with a short drill bit, then coming back with a 2.5-inch screw, and then finally landing those anchors with a little bit of super glue. After the glue setup, I sank the 2.5-inch screws, and these things are rock solid. I'm a lot happier with this mounting option of the impalers that, in most cases, just seem to be a little bit wiggly, and if you ever did have to take them down and put them back up, they were just never as secure again. Next, it was time to determine where exactly I'd place my monitors and measure out where each panel should go, especially on the reflection points off the sides of both panels. The corner traps were pretty easy as they were just placed equidistant from each perpendicular wall, and I could always move them later if I needed to. However, for the opposing side panels, I really needed to settle on the speaker position and where I would be sitting. I started by checking plumb in both directions for the corner traps to make sure that both would be level and I could use them as a reference for measuring where I'd put the side panels. Since I had checked plumb in both directions, I knew I could trust the top to be relatively level. After making marks with a mechanical pencil, I connected the lines with blue painter's tape to give me a visual reference for where I would line up the panel. I used heavy-duty 3M command strips to mount the panels, as I rent here and really can't be going putting holes in the walls, and each pair gives you up to 8 pounds of holding strength, so theoretically, these 4 pairs should give me 32 pounds of holding strength. The time-lapse doesn't do it justice, but I made sure to lean against these with a lot of pressure for well over a minute in each location. And that's it. Of course, I need treatment overhead and behind the monitors, but it's a good start. Hopefully this helps you figure out and treat the acoustic problems in your space. There's a lot of bro science on YouTube about how to best make panels and wild claims about what they are able to actually treat. Really, you're just looking to control enough so that you can mix your music so it translates well in the final product. But there's a lot of really good information as well, and some new products like SonarWorks that can help correct the EQ curve on what you're outputting to actually change your reference without putting anything on the walls. So good luck with your project. If you found this video helpful, please share, like, and subscribe. Until next time, take care.